pin on the bottom left-hand side of the screen in case you want to call in during the webinar. I'm also going to put our email address there for any questions that you have. Just feel free to email us your questions. And at the end, we're going to do a question and answer where we will, can't promise we'll get to everybody's question, but we'll do the best we can just depending on time. I hope you find today's webinar educational. If anybody has any questions that we don't get to, certainly feel free to contact our office. Happy to have a complimentary preliminary consultation with you to answer your questions. Also, we do presentations all across the country. They usually range from about 30 minutes to 3 hours. So if anybody's a member of any group and thinks that having us come there to speak would be educational, certainly we'd be happy to entertain that as well. Just shoot us an email. Just to get started and give you an overview of today's presentation, first we're going to talk about the definition of succession planning and why you must have a business succession plan, why it's so important. Then we'll talk about the different steps that are involved in the planning process and, of course, the types of business succession planning tools and techniques and tactics that are out there. We'll talk about the benefits of succession planning, and most importantly, we'll also talk about what to look for in a successor. So, a lot of people say, what is asset protection? And my definition of asset protection is the legal process of titling both your personal and business assets to put them beyond the reach of future potential threats and creditors while simultaneously still enjoying the benefit of those assets. And I'm going to repeat that because I know it's kind of a long definition. But my definition of asset protection is the legal process of titling both your personal and business assets to put them beyond the reach of future potential threats and creditors while simultaneously still enjoying the benefit of those assets. So, what we do as asset protection attorneys is we help our clients protect any asset they have from any financial threat. And our clients might be doctors, business owners, professional athletes, maybe CPAs, financial advisors, people who inherited money, people who received money in a divorce, really anybody who doesn't want to lose what they worked so hard to obtain. And the type of assets we're helping them protect might be as simple as their checking, savings, stocks, bonds, CDs, money market, brokerage accounts, their homes, rental real estate, vacation homes, boats, planes, cars, shares in a corporation, membership interest in an LLC, their business, intellectual property, really anything of value, and we're helping protect it against any financial threat. So in today's day and age, lawsuits, creditors, car accidents, breach of contract, short sale or foreclosure deficiency, divorce, creditors, judgments, really anything that can take away what you worked so hard to obtain. And, a lot of people always say, well, do I have enough assets to protect? Isn't that only for the wealthy? And the short answer is no. The less you have, the more you need the protection. And I always like to give the same example. Take one of my professional athlete clients who signs a deal for $50 million. Well, if he's sued for $5 million and loses, he's not going to be happy, but he still has $45 million left. Contrast that with the everyday Joe who's maybe saved up a couple $100,000 over his lifespan. Well, if he's sued for $1 million, he's going to be wiped out, devastating, catastrophic, probably no coming back. So my argument is the less you have, the more you need protection. So people always say, well, what if I already have an asset protection plan? And if you do, I think that's great. Number one, have it checked, on an annual basis. Your assets change, your situation changes, laws change, your potential creditors, threats and liabilities change. So definitely have it checked out. Also, I have a lot of people who have, trusts like domestic revocable living trusts or corporations, S corps or C corps, which don't really give you the protection that you're looking for, but for whatever reason they think they have the protection. So big misconceptions that we see. So no matter what you have, you should always have your plan reviewed by a professional. And, a lot of people say, well, why do I need asset protection? I found this cute little cartoon that's in the corner. It's two lawyers, and one says, I say sue. The other one says, anyone in particular. And people usually laugh and chuckle when they see this, but, unfortunately, it's not funny, and unfortunately, this is the world that we live in. There's over 100 million lawsuits every single year, and that number's only growing. In today's bad economy, people are losing their jobs. The people who are lucky enough to keep their jobs are making less and less. So why not go to any corner, hire a lawyer for free on a contingency fee basis, and sue somebody? It costs you nothing but 20, 30 minutes of your time. Sometimes if you win, it's tax-free money. So lawsuits, unfortunately, are truly becoming the next biggest business. There's a 1 in 4 chance you will be sued in the next year, and the average person and company is sued 5 times over their lifetime. Now, these are just the stats. I have clients that have, never been sued. I have clients that get sued on a monthly basis. Just depends what type of industry you're in, how many employees you have, et cetera, et cetera. There's a 50% chance of divorce. In fact, I just did a radio interview right before this webinar, and the stats are showing that not only are the young people getting divorced, but over age 50 is actually the biggest group now to get divorced. So very, very interesting. And also, a lawsuit can cost you tens of thousands of dollars even if you win the case. And my point here is that almost anybody can hire an attorney for free on a contingency fee basis. So they make it so easy and free and cheap to sue someone. But to defend yourself, even if you win the case, it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the trick is not really making money, it's keeping it. And the challenge that I give to all of my clients is that for every 60 minutes you spend making money, spend 60 seconds thinking about how to protect it. And, a lot of people say, well, what about insurance? I have liability insurance. Isn't that enough? People just need to understand that insurance companies are for-profit companies. They're here to make a living, they're here to make a profit, and they make a nice profit. 70% of lawsuits are not covered by insurance. Your coverage may be inadequate. What if you have $200,000 coverage on your car, but you get sued for $500,000? Your insurance company may go bankrupt. Today we have Fortune 500 companies and banks going out of business. Who's to say the insurance company won't be next? And also, insurance doesn't usually cover other uninsured financial risks and divorce. And I say usually because I actually found a company online that now actually offers divorce insurance. So it's pretty funny. Who knows what will be next? The point is, insurance alone is not the answer. You need your own asset protection plan to supplement your insurance. So I call it the belt and suspenders approach. You want as many layers and firewalls as possible to make it so difficult and expensive, if not impossible, for anybody to collect against you that they don't even want to sue you in the first place. So the 3 maxims of asset protection. Number 1, protect yourself before you have a problem. You don't buy car insurance after the accident. You don't buy health insurance after you get sick. You don't buy life insurance after you die. You got to be proactive with your asset protection planning and make sure that you protect yourself before you have a problem. It's kind of like the loan at the bank. If you need a loan, nobody will give it to you. You can only get the loan when you don't need it. Start with a very basic plan and add firewalls as needed. I have so many people who have read my books. They buy them offline or at the bookstore, and they come in and they say they need these big, complicated, expensive plans, and really they don't. Start very simple. Start very basic. Start very inexpensive. As your education grows, your plan can grow. As your personal and business assets grow, your plan can grow. But, don't try and do it all at once. Otherwise, sometimes you just end up doing too much, and the whole plan falls in dismay. Most importantly, don't look for a one magic bullet or one right plan. With asset protection planning, there's no one size fits all. Everybody has different personal and business assets. Everybody has different personal and business, threats, creditors, and liabilities. Somebody might be trying to protect themselves from a car accident, others from a divorce. What works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. So you need an individualized and customized and tailored plan that fits your needs, not your best friend or your business partner's needs. A lot of mistakes to avoid. The 5 biggest one. Number 1, hiding your assets. Asset protection is not about hiding. It's not about secrecy. It's about protection. You should be able to tell every single person what you have and where it is. They just shouldn't be able to get to it. In fact, I tell all my clients that they should presume that one day they will have to tell people what they have. Because if they get sued and they lose the lawsuit and they're deposed under oath, they have to tell the truth. Number 2, titling your assets to straws. People come in all the time and say, oh, Mr. Presser, I'm being sued, but I gave everything to my best friend or my brother-in-law. And I look at them and I say, what actually makes you think that your best friend or brother-in-law has less legal and financial problems than you? I've seen times where they've given the assets to the best friend gets sued and loses the client's assets. I've seen times where they give the assets to the brother-in-law, the brother-in-law gets a divorce and loses the client's assets. So you don't want to go titling all your assets to straws. Same thing with titling your assets to your spouse. We see this mostly with our doctor and physician and surgeon clients. Oh, everything's in my wife's name, Mr. Presser, so I'm okay. That does not work. Nobody's immune from a lawsuit. Nobody gets up in the morning and expects to be sued. Your wife can just as easily get in a car accident, taking the kids to soccer practice. There could be a divorce. You don't want to just go shove everything in your spouse's name. You never want to commit fraudulent transfers, and that deals with trying to protect yourself after you've been sued or after you have a potential liability. And of course, you never want to break laws. Our law firm does both domestic and international asset protection planning. So we do planning both inside the United States and outside the United States. And there's nothing wrong with doing planning outside of the United States, but you have to make sure that you fill out all the proper reporting requirements with the IRS, the Treasury Department. So none of this is tax evasion. Everything we do is tax neutral. The point here is asset protection. So what is business succession planning? I'm sorry, I made a little error on the slideshow. Just bear with me. Apologize. So what is the definition of business succession planning? Definition of business succession planning is really the process for identifying and also developing internal strategies and really people with the potential to fill key business leadership positions and roles in the company. And I tell my clients, business succession planning is kind of like estate planning for a business. So, what's estate planning? Estate planning deals with when you pass away, where do you want your assets to go? And certainly you want them to go there quickly, privately, and with the least amount of taxes that are legally allowed. And there's no difference with business succession planning. Business succession planning is just estate planning for your business. What do you want to have happen to the business once you pass away? How do you want the business to run if your partner passes away? So business succession planning really is just doing estate planning for your business. And, it's such a big focus because most people I meet with, their business is their most important and valuable asset. It's what sustains and, keeps their entire lifestyle going. It's the cash flow mechanism. So it's so important not only to protect it from an asset protection point of view, but also to have a business succession plan in place as well. So, there's a lot of reasons that you want to have business succession planning. Number one is it prevents your business from being transferred to incapable leaders. You can actually pick where you want your business to go, who you want to run it, before something happens. It also prevents the possibility of external takeover. And prevents uncertainty of your business in the future. If you just pass away with no plan, who knows what happens? Does your kid take it and run it to the ground? Does the business go away before you even have a chance to run it or sell it? Does your business partner try and steal it? Does your wife want more than what the business is worth? If you don't have a business succession plan, it can really just create a lot of problems. And most importantly, it helps prepare the business to continue being successful. A business can live on. If the CEO of Walmart dies, Walmart lives on. If the CEO of Apple passes away, Apple passes on. There's no reason that your business needs to die with you. You've worked hard for it. You've spent a lot of time and money getting it to be successful. So you definitely want that to live on as much as possible. So, there's a bunch of different steps in the business succession planning process, and number one is really just to understand what succession planning is and really educate yourself. Once you understand what succession planning is and once you've educated yourself, you want to discover what are realistic expectations, what can realistically happen, once you pass away or once your partner passes away. Once you've done that, and I keep using the word realistic because people tend to be unrealistic when it comes to their business, but once you've done that, you want to examine all the different options. There's a lot of different options. Do you want to sell the business, pass it on generation to generation? There's dozens and dozens of different types of options. Then, of course, you want to create a plan. Of course, have that plan reviewed by experts, finalize the plan, and most importantly, implement the plan. When it comes to estate planning, I think the last time I checked, the stats were that 7 out of 10 Americans die without a will. Again, business succession planning is really just estate planning for your business. So if 7 out of 10 people die without a will from an estate planning purpose, I got to presume that a minimum of 9 out of 10 people die without having a business succession plan. So you really want to follow these steps and put a plan together, no matter how simple it is, but make sure that you implement it before something happens. Nobody gets up in the morning and expects to get in a car accident or expects to get diagnosed with some sort of disease at the doctor's office. So you always want to plan as far in advance as possible. And there's a lot of different types of business succession planning. One is the transfer of management. So how do you get the right people in there to run the business? How do you get the key management in there? Another one is the transfer of property or the transfer of assets. Okay, what assets do the business have? Maybe it's websites or phone numbers or intellectual property. Maybe it's real estate or equipment or machinery. But how do you transfer that to the right place and the right person? Of course, you want to have contingency plans for managing disruptions in the plan and execution, because you just never know what speed bumps and hiccups could come up. Things don't always go as planned. And also there's buyouts where you buy out the other partner involved or the investor involved in the company. There's a lot of benefits to business succession planning, just kind of a few of them. Number one, of course, you can increase the availability of experiences and capable people to assume the important managerial roles. So, up front, who's capable of handling it and who will handle it. And I have sometimes people, when they're doing their business succession planning, they'll put a list of people because you just never know, might someone predecease you. Also, a huge benefit is that there's no disruption of the business operations between the generations. If you're running a dentist office and you pass away, well, if it takes you 6 months to get your act together, you might have lost all your clients. So you really want to make sure that there's no disruptions in business. And most importantly, you can control who the successor becomes and how they're trained to run the company. So, before you pass away, you can say, okay, this is who's going to, take my company the furthest and make it the most successful. And you can actually pick that person and train them how you want them trained, rather than, God forbid something happens and, they're trying to pick up, the stones, trying to do the best they can. So, what do you look for in a successor? Number one is experience in the business. Certainly you want someone who has experience. There's nothing you could do that puts you above experience. I don't care how smart someone is or how good looking they are. There's nothing like experience in the field. Number two is education. I'm a big firm believer in educating yourself, and you should never stop learning. I try and learn as much as I can from anybody in any business, even if it's my own, because there's always something to be learned. So you want someone who really is not only educated, but has the passion for learning. Of course, you have to look for good personal characteristics. You want someone who does legal, ethical, honest, trustworthy, loyal things. So you really want to look at their personal characteristics. Of course, you want to see what skills are required and the job responsibilities that they're going to have to fulfill. And, of course, someone who can assume greater managerial responsibilities, someone who can really step up and say, you know what, I'm ready to handle this. So how to make sure the successor is developed? You want to develop their knowledge, their skills, the abilities to become the replacement. So, you really got to help them. You really got to educate them. You really have to train them. You can't expect someone to do a good job, if you haven't put the time and money into their training. You also want to ensure that they've developed the understanding of the key roles in the company, know what the key roles in the company are. So you really have to spell that out. What are the most important tasks that must be done? Again, provide proper training both internally and externally. So whether that's within the company and outside of the company. And also, you got to give yourself a proper time frame. This isn't something that should be done a month or 6 months before. I tell my clients, really, if you can plan 5 to 15 years out, that's really the way to do it. Now, of course, you can't always do it this far in advance, but certainly to the extent you can, it's going to be much more helpful. And of course, you want to give regular feedback and let them know how they're doing and, are they doing a good job, where they can improve, and things of that nature. You also want to memorialize the plan in writing. And I always tell people, if you don't write something down, it'll never get done. We have too much going on in our day-to-day lives. You get a phone call, an email, or text. You get distracted, or you lose your thought. So I'm a firm believer in writing things down and writing them down as soon as possible. So, the plan simply in your head does absolutely no good. You have to really write down the plan. Also, the successor should know that they are the successor and have a written plan for takeover. So you don't want this to be a surprise for the person who's taken over. And also, it just eliminates room for error and disruption in the business. If you have something down in black and white, it always can help them. I hope that helps. I really just wanted to give you a very general overview today of, the asset protection and the business succession planning. I'd encourage you to stay on with me just for the next few minutes. I'm going to take just the next 5 minutes or so and round up all the questions that we received during the webinar. I'll try and get to as many as I can. Again, if I don't get to yours, I apologize, but I'll do as many as we have time for. Every month we do a webinar on asset protection. We also do a webinar on estate planning. So feel free to check our website and email us if you want to be a part of that. What I'm going to do now while I'm rounding up all the questions is I'm going to post a poll. Just want to ask you guys a quick question, see if you took everything in clearly and if today was an educational. So I'd appreciate it if you could just take a moment to answer the poll, and I'd really appreciate that. And I'll be back with you in about a few minutes. Thanks so much. Okay, we got a bunch of questions, so I'm going to apologize if I don't get to yours, but I'll do whatever we have time for. And I'm not taking these in any specific order, just how they were handed to me. So again, forgive me if I don't get to yours. Number one, are there any other reasons to consider business succession planning that you didn't mention in the webinar? Definitely. I mean, what if you became, physically, emotionally, just unable to perform any of your duties? You would need certainly a successor. What if, your partner's with, a spouse? I see it all the time. And you get a divorce. What if you have a change of heart or, want to pursue another opportunity? So, yeah, certainly there's a lot of other reasons that could happen. Good question. Next. How much should I sell my business for? That's a good question. There's price and there's value. The price that a business is sold for is really a result of negotiations and deal making between the buyer and the seller. Of course, you take into account information, personalities, motives, bargaining power, et cetera, et cetera. But I always tell people, the value of a business, it's just hypothetical. You can have businesses valuated and, things of that nature and get an idea of what they're worth. But, at the end of the day, it's like real estate. I mean, what is something worth? It's worth whatever someone's willing to pay. So, some people say, oh, X times gross or X times net. At the end of the day, your business is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And I'll take one more. When should I start to consider business succession planning? Now. Not planning your own business ending, obviously can create havoc, not only for you, your successors, and your partners. Do you want to be in business with your partner and or spouse? You want to come up with the answer. You don't want to have a judge figure it out. So the best advice I can give you is really to be proactive. Again, if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. Certainly feel free to contact the office. Happy to have a complimentary preliminary consultation with you. I went ahead and posted the 2 latest books that I wrote. Asset Protection Secrets and Financial Self-Defense. If you want to download them, certainly go ahead. If you'd like regular copies, just contact our office and we'll be happy to mail them to you. And also, if you guys are a member of any group or organization that you think could benefit from, anywhere from a 30-minute to a 3-hour presentation on asset protection or any in general or any specific asset protection topic, certainly please feel free to reach out to us. But I really hope today was educational, and I'll leave the books up for the next few minutes, and have a great rest of the week.